Well, it is finally time for an upgrade to the Jeep. I am super excited about this. I'm not going to say what it is. I'm just going to say that I've been waiting a very long time for this to happen. And so there you have it. Obviously, it's finally time for a wheel upgrade. If you've been following along on the channel, and well, I hope you do, thank you very much. You know that we have been running these Black Rhino Armory wheels now for quite a long time on the Jeep. And guys, let me tell you, 100%, I am absolutely not going to knock these wheels. I have beat the crap out of these wheels, and no, they are not BeadLocks, but I've really been lucky. I get away with something that we really shouldn't never do. We do run these things down around 8 to 10 pounds when we're off-road, and they are not BeadLocks. So, I mean, that is dangerous territory. But compared to the hundreds of miles that we've done like that, compared to the trouble that I've had, it's all worth it. Yes, I have knocked one of these tires completely off the wheel. But, you know, I mean, that's my fault. It's no fault of the wheel at all. It's just, you know, low pressure, and we got into a bad situation, and well, it is what it is. It didn't tear the tire up. It just simply pushed it off the bead and rolled the bead up over the edge of the wheel, and we were kind of stuck, you know. But we got it all fixed on the trail. But I've been super happy with the Black Rhino Armory wheels. It is just finally time to go to BeadLocks. I am so excited about it. I've been wanting these things for so long. The only little disappointment is, and it's not a disappointment at all, okay? These are 37, 12, 50, 17 BF Goodrich KO2s. This is a fantastic tire. It has served a purpose for this Jeep. Absolutely love these tires. They're not the best for off-road use necessarily for what we do, but they have worked great. So I'm not going to knock the tire, not near one bit. BF Goodrich, I hope you're listening. I love these tires. Don't get me wrong. But really, for what we're doing, the KO2 is not the best tire. So the little bit of disappointment is we had fully intended, I've had the beadlock wheels now for a while, and I had fully intended on going ahead and doing away with the 37 and going to the 39 KM3. But I can't get them, guys. I mean, my tire guy, man, he's worked. He's been in contact with BF Goodrich. You've seen him in a lot of videos. Taylor, my discount tire god guru there that takes care of us so well. It's everything right now. Everything is hard to get. So the tires are really kind of unattainable right now unless we just want to pay stupid money for them. I mean, the 39-inch KM3 is already stupid money enough, but I'm talking about stupid with people that have them, but for a reason, because they know they have them and they're really hard to get. So we're going to hold off for a little while, get the supply issues back kind of to normal, and yes, we will eventually be going to the 39, 13, 50, 17 KM3. But for now, good old tried and true KO2s. They have done me very well. We're just going to mount these on the beadlocks for now and keep on running them. I can't really necessarily justify wasting these tires because literally they are still brand spanking new. They have worked phenomenal for us. I love these tires, so don't get me wrong, and I absolutely do love the Black Rhino Armory wheels. So there you go. They have been a great wheel. I did run into a little bit of a problem. The hardware kit here, these are just faux bolts, basically. They're plastic. They just pull out of the wheel, and just like that. I cannot get those either. Taylor and I have worked, contacted Wheel Pro, which actually owns Black Rhino now, and same thing. National back order. They have no clue. There is no estimated ship date for me to get a hardware kit. That is the wheel that I knocked the tire off of, and we got a rock hung up in there, and I literally broke off all the little plastic faux bolts, and they come right out, though. It wasn't an issue. But anyways, we are going to get these dismounted. The beadlocks are still snugged away tight in the garage there in all the boxes, and once we get the tires dismounted, we got TPMS sensors to go in the new wheels. These will be a complete set of wheels with TPMS sensor for I don't know, we may end up sticking them on Allie's Jeep or something. We're just going to hang on to them as they are a great wheel. But anyway, we're going to get these up to the tire shop, get them dismounted, and then we will start the very long, arduous process of torquing up beadlocks. Alright, so there was no way I was going to bust all them tires down. You notice they're not on the trailer anymore. We came back up here to Discount Tire. Taylor said, no man, screw that, bring them up here and let me dismount them for you. So I loaded them all on the trailer as you saw previously. I just brought the trailer up here, dropped it off, and they've got them all off. I'm assuming they're somewhere in here in the shop, so let's go see where they're at. No more wheels, easy peasy. Alright, so there they are. We got all the tires and the empty wheels all loaded back up on the trailer. We got all new sensors for the beadlocks. We got all new lug nuts here for the beadlocks, as well as a little duty tool here. It fits right on the impact that has the lock and lug stud in it. Pretty awesome. Anyways, get these all strapped down, we'll get back to the house, and we'll start trying to get these things mounted up on the new beadlocks. Alright guys, so we're going to get started mounting up the beadlocks. Now, as you saw, we took the tires up to Discount and had them dismounted because that is much harder a job if you don't have the proper tools. Now, mounting the beadlocks back up is really not that bad, honestly. And we're going to open up one brand new, but as you can see, I've already got a wheel sitting here. Each wheel comes with a chart like this in the box. And it simply is a bolt size gauge to see what size bolt goes in yours, which ours happen to be the 3/8. Therefore, they torque to 32 foot-pounds. Now, there's 24 bolts, so that is a ton of torquing. Also, these are steel bolts, aluminum wheel, dissimilar metals. We are going to be using anti-seize on the threads to help keep them from galding. So on the chart, it does give a reduction if you're using anti-seize, which is a 25% reduction. Do the math. We're going to torque these to 24 foot-pounds. Let's get a box open though, because I want to show you exactly what comes in the box so that you'll know. And again, they're not really all that bad to mount up as you're fixing to see. All right, so let's get one of these boxes opened up here, and we will show you exactly how they come packaged. These are the KMCs. We got them here a while back. Just haven't opened them all yet. But as you can see right off the get-go, the very first thing that you are faced with is that wheel chart that I was just talking about. It shows the proper ways to mount the wheels up. It has the bolt gauges in here to figure out what size bolt came with your wheel. Keep in mind that some tires, I know for sure, I'm going to use this as an example because we just had a discussion with a Mickey Thompson rep about this. Some of the Mickey Thompson tires, the beads are significantly thicker than, say, even they are on the BF Goodrich tire that I have. Now, if you run into that situation where your bead is oversized, they do make a spacer ring. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there is a spacer ring that will go between your beadlock ring and the wheel to make up for that extra thickness of the bead. Ours being the BF Goodrich, the KO2s, they don't fall in that range. They actually work on just the straight traditional wheel design as it is, so we did not have to order the spacers with our beadlocks. I just know that I had the discussion with the Mickey Thompson rep about this past weekend, sorry, but we were just discussing that because he asked me what kind of wheels we have, and he said we may run into an issue where we had to order the spacers. But for now, anyway, that's how it comes. The wheel chart is in there right off the get-go. There's another information packet which basically says the same thing as that chart does. Warranty paperwork. And then you get on down to all the fluff. And there is the actual wheels. They come packaged really, really well from KMC right off the get-go. They're very protected to keep them from getting scratched or anything like that. Not like they're not going to get scratched up, right? But also underneath each wheel down in there, there is a box of bolts and washers for the ring. So that's how they come packaged. That's the information. That's a little bit that you need to know when you order beadlocks. Depending on what type of tire you have, you may have to order a spacer ring. All of that is discussed in the information that is sent with the tires. So let's get back over here to this one, and we'll start getting it mounted up. And like I say, it's really not that bad to mount them back up. It's just a booger to get the tire off of the initial wheel. Okay guys, we're going to start getting all the hardware laid out here. Like I say, there's all the washers and everything like that. And this is how KMC packages the bolts. Every single bolt is individually wrapped in a protective layer of paper. So we got to get all these unwrapped as well. So give me just a minute and we'll get all that done right quick. Go ahead and get a washer put on every single bolt. Just makes it go a little tiny bit faster. Also, like I say, we have a steel bolt and an aluminum wheel, so we have dissimilar metals in there. So we're going to add just a touch of anti-seize. And when I mean a touch, guys, don't paint it, just a touch of anti-seize. Just want to be sure we get some down in all the threads. Now these wheels do have a steel insert in there for the actual thread, but still, dirt, mud, grime, and gunk will find its way in there eventually, somehow, some way, I promise you. Alright, so we have the tire suspended up here off the floor a little bit. It just makes it a little bit easier to get the tire on there. So let's stick the tire on it right quick. Okay, I was also going to show you that these wheels do come with dual valve stem holes in them already, and I'm sure there's a very scientific explanation for that, so this is just what I'm going to run with. Having the dual valve stem holes gives us the opportunity that in one of our valve stems here we can actually run the TPMS sensors, which ours does have monitoring on it, so we're going to install new sensors with it. In the other valve stem hole, I could put a high flow valve, or I could put some built-in tire deflators, or we could simply plug it off as we're only going to be using one. But in our case, we are going to run the TPMS sensor over here in the one hole, and then over in the other valve stem hole, we are going to go ahead and install some high flow valves. Now these are not the deflator style, but they do allow a quicker air up compared to going through a traditional valve stem. So let's get the valve stems installed right quick, and then we'll move on to getting the tire stuck in there. Alrighty, so they do make some fancy valve stem installers, but it's really not that bad to where you would justify having to need it. We're just going to lube it up really well, and we're just going to use a traditional valve stem tool here. Alright, so we want to install the sensor though, so that the sensor is actually facing inward towards the wheel. You see how they're angled? We're going to face it inward towards the wheel, so we're just going to stick it in there, hook up our fancy dancy little valve stem tool here. Alright, and all we're going to do is just pull it up into position. Boom, just like that. Now if you had a fancy dancy valve stem installer, it would be a little bit easier. However, we're working with what we have, so we just use the traditional valve stem tool. And like I say, for the other one, we're just going to use some high flow valve stems. My helper. Keep in mind that one side of the washer is conical to go around the rubber insert, so you don't want to put that on backwards. Just slide it through the hole, put the washer back on it, put the collar back on it. These only torque to 32 inch-pounds, so have some sense about you. You don't have to bottom the threads out or over tighten this. 32 inch-pounds is not much, guys. I am not going to torque them, but I also have enough sense to know not to bury them out. Click, click. My inch-pound wrist told me that that is about 32 inch-pounds right there. That is it for the valve stems. Alright, so let's get the tire stuck over it. Just like that. Like that. We'll start getting our ring put on. And now for a whole lot of bolts. Since they are a 3/8 bolt, it's just a 9/16 socket. Like I say, we're just going to get them all started. We're not trying to tighten them down at all. So I'm literally just taking the slack out of the bolt and getting it up against the ring right now. It's not tightening it at all. Okay, so once you got them all started, let's switch the camera view here a little bit, and I want to show you something inside the wheel if we can get down in there and see it. Okay, you'll notice down inside the wheel there is a significant gap between the wheel and the bead ring. That is normal. As we start getting all these bolts pulled down evenly around this, that gap is going to start closing up slowly as we get that bead pinched in there like it's supposed to be. And then once we get them all kind of hand tight, that gap will be completely closed up, and then we will move on. We can start getting them torqued down through a sequence and get the bead finally set. Okay, you can see we got the bead on. We've got all of the bolts in there. Don't forget your washers on the bolts and everything like that. They're not tight. They're just literally just started down in there hand tight. And like I said, when we started out, all I did was I just stuck the rim up on the top of a bucket here to keep it suspended up off of the floor that we're working on, and that will let the bottom bead hang down onto the wheel rather than trying to sit this on the ground and it's going to want to push the tire up naturally. We're going to use gravity at work here to help us. So all we're going to do now is, again, we're not torquing it. We're just going to start getting all of the bolts down nice and slow, just get the slack taken out of them. We'll start closing up that gap on the bottom there until we get it all the way down. And again, it's not about torquing the bolts. Remember, they only torqued to 24 foot-pounds to begin with, so this is literally bringing them down like a pound or two at a time just to start getting that gap closed up there on that ring on the tire. And once we get these down where they're all about the same, you know, they're just not hand tight like these are right now, then we'll switch over to the torque wrench and we'll start bringing them down real slow. We'll start at about 20 pounds, and at that point in time we'll start an actual sequence instead of just going around in a circle like this. But just to get them all hand tight down and everything like that, the circle pattern is just fine. But on the final torque, it's definitely going to want to be in a pattern to crisscross across the wheel. So let's finish getting all these down hand tight. We'll get that gap closed up between the bead lock ring and the actual wheel. We'll show you that once we get to that point, and then we'll start the torquing sequence. Okay, now that we've got the ring down kind of evenly, we're just going to switch to like a more of a crisscross pattern, just to start bringing the ring down evenly and smoothly all the way around. So that's looking good. Again, kind of hard to get down in here and see, but you'll notice that our gap between the ring and the wheel now is almost closed up completely. And the bolts still are not tight. It's just getting the bead seated in there where it's supposed to be. So now we're going to switch over to the torque wrench, and we will start a torquing sequence, get these things down slowly. Remember, our final torque is only going to be 24 pounds. So we'll start out about 20, get them torqued where they don't move anymore, and then we'll switch over to 24 and same thing. You'll notice that's only 20 pounds and how much it is still pulling down, just even at 20 pounds. There's a long ways to go. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we pretty much got down to 20 pounds evenly all the way around with a crisscross pattern. We're really not moving the bolt much anymore. So now we're just going to start just a straight, just circle around it at 20, just to make sure that there's no more give in any of the bolts.
Slow process?
Very, very slow process. Done at 20. Okay, so we're going to switch up for just a second here. We're not at the final torque. The ring is torqued down to 20 pounds. Remember, we're going to 24 pounds. But what we're going to do here at this point in time is we're going to go ahead and air the tire up to seat the bead. You know, kind of let it settle in, whatever you want to call it, onto the rim. And then once we get it aired up and all seated, we're just gonna let the air right back out of it, back totally 0 PSI, deflated. And then we're gonna go back around and we're gonna torque them again at 20 to make sure that we're still holding right there. And if all is good right there, we'll go on up to our fully 24, okay? So let's go ahead and get this thing seated in there right quick. Got them seated. We're not worried about going up to the, to the full 32 or whatever we're going to run on the highway. I generally run about 28 in them all the time. They do really good right there, but we want to be sure we got enough in there that we're totally seated around the beads. We are fully seated up, so we're just going to go ahead and let the air back out now. Yeah, it looks good all the way around. All right, so our tire is fully deflated now, so we're just gonna recheck the ring at 20. If it needs some more at 20 pounds, we'll just get it down to 20 where there's no more. And then we'll go on to 24 for the final torque. Down to our 24. All right, guys, so that's it for the torquing process. We're going to go ahead and get it aired up. We only got to do it 4 more times after that. But once we get them all, torqued, we'll get everything aired up. We'll get them all done, and we'll load them back up on the trailer. And we'll run them up to my buddy Taylor again there, and we'll get him to balance them, and then we'll get him to put them on the Jeep. All right, so there they are, all mounted up, all torqued up, all retorqued. I went ahead and pulled all the center caps. I still got to get this cap off. We'll run them up tomorrow at a discount. We'll get them all balanced, and then we'll get them put on the Jeep. See how it does. All right, so they got them all balanced. They're all loaded back up on the trailer. I'll get them ranged here in a minute. And look at this, man. This is when it comes out really good. That's all the weight it took to balance that wheel. That's awesome. Some of the others, I mean, they took a little bit more, but that's still not real bad. Anyway, we're gonna get them strapped down and get them back to the house, and we'll put them on the Jeep. So the goal here is not tight. We're just getting the lugs run up on the wheels. That's it. There you go. It's just enough to center the wheel up and get the studs up there, the nuts, so that we can start torquing them. That's it. That's all it is. Okay, here comes another one of those subjects where you will literally turn your eyes cross-eyed and run out of breath. That is torque on the nuts for the wheel studs. If you start searching the internet, you are going to find a multitude of answers and people's opinions, and even Discount Tire, they gave me a recommended torque on these. But the main thing is torque them evenly, right? Don't use your impact and just run them down as tight as you can get them in a couple ugga-duggas and be done with it. Those studs actually do stretch. You don't think they do, but even at a mere 90 pounds, that stud is stretching. That's what they're designed to do. That's what actually keeps it tight. It's the amount that you stretch that stud and it's wanting to pull itself back. Hence the amount of torque you put on the stud nut, okay? I have seen anywhere between 90, 100, 115, 120. They're all roughly close together for a 1/2 inch 20 wheel stud, which is what's on our Rubicon right here. So the Black Rhinos actually did have a torque value of 115. That was just a recommendation from the wheel manufacturer with a 1/2" 20 stud and everything like that. And that was right along lines with what Discount Tire told me. The KMC wheels don't actually come with a recommended torque because it's kind of up to the wheel manufacturer, between the vehicle manufacturer and again your stud and blah, 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 blah. So we are just going to torque these to 105. We'll drive the Jeep quite a ways today on a little trip, you know, just to make sure everything's gonna be okay, and then we'll recheck them. At the 115 on the black Rhinos, honestly, it felt like it was a little too tight. When you would go to take it loose, it just didn't feel right, and if you've done it enough times, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So anyway, nevertheless, we are going to go to 105 and call it good. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about or not, but if you've done it enough times, maybe you do. You'll kind of, there's a feel to a nut on a stud. You kind of know when it's to that point, and it just feels good, right? You haven't been over torquing the bolt on there, which was pulling the threads. So anyway, at 105, it feels really good, but I trust the torque wrench. And well, there it is. They're all done. They're all mounted up. They're all torqued. They're all aired up. We got them all mounted on the Jeep. They look absolutely fantastic. I'll tell you, the black Rhino wheels that we had, the offset for those was really more for like a Gladiator, because that's what they actually came off of, was a 2020 Gladiator. But compared to these wheels, these offsets are much, much better. This is the 3.5 offset. And I was having some issues before. I don't know if I can get down in here and show you before, but I was really tight up against my sway bar end links here before, and now I have a significant gap in there, so that's going to help out a lot with that. But they look great. They passed my helper's approval right there, and we are off to Okie Jeep Jam, so that's going to be super exciting. We're sponsoring all the off-site trail rides for that by registration only. RockSolidRig, you had to pre-register for them. Sorry guys. The park is going to be closed during the event, only for the Okie Jeep Jam off-site trail rides. But until then, thank you for subscribing. If you haven't, it's entirely up to you. I wish you would come along for the ride. We always appreciate your input, and it really helps us figure out that crazy algorithm called YouTube. So until next time, we'll see you guys later down the road. Oh. Some error. Man. I wish I had Corey here. He's got enough air in him to air up all these tires.